And good morning, everybody. How are you doing today? Quick sound check. My computer is telling me that my audio bit rate is a little bit low, and so sound might be impaired. How's my sound coming through today? Everybody, give me a good check. Melody, glad to hear about the new class. I know it's going to be a heavy load. They're trying to get you through quick, I'll bet. So they're going to be trying to kill you there. Fantastic. Sound good. Uh, Andrea started an anthropology class a couple of weeks ago. It's difficult judging in another class. Yes, I know what you're talking about, Andrea, especially when you're doing that 16 week and that 8 week. Uh, it can really be difficult, kind of messes with your mind. I was teaching an 8 week class the first half of this semester, and it was a pain trying to switch from 8 week back to 16 weeks. Hi, Yasser. Good to see you, Amani. Always good to have you here. Deerica, William. Fantastic. And Andrea Nicole. Wow, it's really good to see everybody today. You are taking 42 credits right now. That's basically 3 semesters worth of school at one time. Hopefully you don't blow a gasket. You should definitely, oh, you can't come to webinar tonight. We're talking about stress and dealing with performance anxiety, so you're going to miss out on that. Uh, I do want to drop a quick advertisement for this week's um, webinars. We're going to be talking about how to defeat performance anxiety. How many of you get really nervous and overwhelmed before a big exam? How many of you have trouble doing a good interview because you get nervous in front of the interview squad? How many of you play a sport where sometimes your nerves get the best of you? Have you ever seen one of those athletes perform in a high stress moment on TV and produce perfect results? Well, tonight we're going to talk about what these sports psychologists know that can help you perform well in high stress evaluative circumstances. Okay, Deerica, so I hope you can make it tonight. I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite books of all, The Mental ABCs of Baseball. And I'm going to be talking about sports psychology and managing your stress level. Okay, I cannot believe you're taking 42 hours. You are crazy, 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 girl. Holy cow. All right. Any other questions? Any other comments? We are in week 11. Folks, we are getting close, close, close to the end. Our third exam is next weekend, excuse me, next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And after that third exam, all we have to do is clinical psychology and then take our final exam. You folks are doing a great job, and we are kicking butt this semester. I've been looking at discussion boards. Those of you that participate on the discussion board are often making 4, 5, and 6 comments, which is more than the required 3. So it feels, and seminar attendance is actually creeping up a little bit. Usually at this time in the semester, it's kind of dropping off a little bit. But your seminar attendance, webinar attendance is actually increasing. So what I'm seeing is that we are a class fully engaged and kicking butt. And I want to thank each and every one of you for doing a great job so far this semester. All right. Is that enough? I don't see any questions in the chat bar, no complaints about the sound. So I feel like everything's good to go. So without further ado, I'm going to talk about chapter 11, health and well-being. This is also another one of those chapters that feels a little weird for me because I am a psychologist, and yet I'm going to talk to you about eating behaviors and smoking behaviors today, which is going to seem a little odd. This is sort of the intersection. Psychology is a broad field, and it goes all the way from biology to almost anthropology. And then we also meet your good doctor, your primary care practitioner, who's going to be telling you about health behaviors. So psychology even does a little bit with health behaviors. Now, most of the time, those psychologists who are interested in health and well-being, health psychologists, are going to be an applied field. Remember, applied, where you use psychology to help people. And these people are going to spend a lot of time coaching people to help them engage in good life habits. Okay. So, really, that's what health psychology is about. I'm not saying all health psychologists are like that. But if you're the kind of person that feels like you can help people affect good change in their life and live healthier lives, you probably want to be in health psychology. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about what health psychology is and well being. And then we're going to talk about exercising, healthy eating, and smoking. Now, hopefully, you'll come back on Thursday because Thursday we're going to talk about the biggest health impact: stress, right? How do we control the stress in our life? I'll bet all of you are feeling a certain amount of stress. I'll bet all of you are feeling stress if you're taking 42 hours of classes. So, this week's all about how psychologists can help us feel better and live better. So today we're going to start with more of the practical items. Uh, Living healthy, developing healthy behaviors. Okay, I'd like to introduce you to my grandmother. She lived to be, actually, this is an old picture of her. She lived to be 101 and a half years old. Unfortunately, she died last November. It was very sad. Um, for the whole family, but Nana lived to 102. And you know what? At this picture at her 100th birthday, let me tell you a little bit about Nana. She actually drove to the party herself. She actually still lives without any assistance in her own house, or she lived in her own house at 100. Did you know she even had rental property? She was a property manager at 100. Nana would show up at your house every week and every month and ask for her rent money. This is the most amazing woman I ever saw. She worked 45 hours at the age of 90. You know, she actually had a job volunteering at the retirement center. And when I asked her why she volunteered at the retirement center, she said, because I like to help the old people. Right. So this was an amazing lady. Nana's rules for living to 100. You can't argue with success. You know what? Eat your greens, honey. Get yourself outside and get some exercise. No smoking, no drinking. Join yourself a bingo league so you have some friends, right? Go to a prayer meeting so you can find some purpose in the all in the man above, right? Find you a sweetie, because love sure will make life last longer. And you know what? You can't run from your troubles. You got to face them, honey. And she would also say it takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile. You know what? You follow Nana's rules, you got a pretty good chance of living to be 100 too. Now, if anybody's interested, there's actually a branch of psychology called positive psychology where they study happiness, the scientific study of happiness. And if you're interested, there's a fellow named Dan Gilbert who's got a great TED talk called Happiness, What Your Mother Didn't Tell You. And he talks about the three secrets to being happy. Now, people think happiness is a stupid thing. In fact, I saw an article in the newspaper, a news outlet was teasing the fact that there is actually a degree called happiness that you can get, the study of happiness. There was a degree program out in the West. Here's the deal: how many of you are unhappy? How many of you would like to be happy? Happiness is silly until you don't have enough. So there are actually people, health psychologists, who study this quality called happiness. And you, my friends, should learn how to cultivate happiness in your life. It will allow you to live a long time. Okay, so with enough proselytizing and advertising, let's go ahead and get on into the lecture. Psychologists, we're not just interested in health, we're interested in this thing called well being. What exactly is well-being? Well, some people say it when they tell you to live your best life, right? Well, living your best life is more than about being disease-free and living to 100 like Nana. It's about living a happy and productive life until 100. Being alive without being productive, being alive without being happy, being alive without being active is not really living your best life. And so, well being, so what we want to focus on is not just a long life, but well being. What is well being? It's a positive state that includes striving for optimal health, being physically healthy, and also being mentally healthy. How many of you are physically healthy but mentally not as healthy as you'd like to be? Is anybody down here in that mind where you're alive but you're just not feeling great about things? You know what? I want to help you because we want you not just to achieve physical health but psychological health. And if you have both of those, you are living, you have well-being. And you know what, William Cray, I am so sorry about that. Especially when you have health challenges, it makes it hard to have positivity in other areas of your life. You know what, William, hopefully having listened to this lecture this week, you'll be able to maximize whatever positivity you can find in your health challenges, my friend. Now, positive psychology is actually a basic research area. It's not necessarily an applied research. That guy, Dan Gilbert's actually going to study the things that allow us to live happy, productive lives. So there are scientific studies, people who study happiness and well being scientifically, right? And then we're also going to talk about health psychologists. These are sort of the applied area of this subfield. And these are psychologists who take what Dan Gilbert and others know and try to help people like you develop happier, better lives. Okay. Now, what is well being? It is your physical health. It's also having positive emotions. Remember, we talked about emotions a couple of weeks ago. It's also about being engaged in life, having friends, having jobs, having activities. And you know what? I didn't believe this as a younger man, but now as I get older, finding meaning in life is really important. How many of you out there are just plodding along day to day and you just sometimes life seems pointless? If you get to that point in your life, it can be hard to carry on. So it's very important to find meaning in life. So, well being isn't just feeling good, it's having positive emotions, it's being engaged with the world that you live in, and it's being able to find meaning in the life that you have. So, that's what psychologists are interested in. We're interested in well being. Now, where will you find health psychologists? You know what? You'll find health psychologists in smoking cessation programs or drug and alcohol abuse programs. And they'll be helping you retrain yourself to avoid these harmful habits. You know what? Sometimes you will find you'll find health psychologists in health related environments where they're treating people who have obesity and unhealthy eating behaviors. You know what? Health psychologists are also interested in exercise, healthy sexual practices, and stress. You'll find all of these behavioral health programs. Anytime you see a behavioral health program, what you can probably know is that there are some health psychologists behind that. Because living a healthy life is a habit. Living a life of well being is a habit. Unfortunately, a lot of us learn unhealthy habits that create conditions that don't promote well being. But health psychologists help us create habits that will lead to a sense of well being. Have I lost anybody yet? Does this make sense? Do you find like this is useful so far? How many of you feel like you experience well-being? Anybody here feel like they have well-being right now? Your physical health, your emotions, your engagement, your meaning. How many of you are experiencing a situation of of well-being right now? Go ahead and type in the chat bar. Let me know. Now, down below me, what you see is a little graphic here. And this is sort of the idea. What exactly promotes well being? Well, there are a lot of things. There are biological characteristics, there are psychological factors, and there are social situations that all affect the habits that you and I develop that either lead to well being or don't lead to well being. Now, your biological characteristics, you may have been born with a disease. You may have developed a disease that it has a genetic component. You know what? You may be biologically set to be an overweight person. You may be biologically set to have anxiety, this or that. So there are biological characteristics that affect our feelings of well being and health. And One of the things we need to know is when these factors do affect us and how to take preventative measures against these factors. Now, you know what? Part of it also is how you feel psychologically. You know what? Maybe you grew up in a tough household and your mom or your dad or your family member or some sort of experiences in your life created beliefs and ideas and problems in your head. And these psychological factors can then affect the way you engage in life as an adulthood. Some people drink because they had tough childhoods, because they had tough experiences. Some people take drugs to escape these problems that they feel in their head. Psychological factors affect our health and well being. And then, you know what? There are social conditions, right? Maybe you live in a culture where you're not supposed to express yourself. Maybe you live in your culture where you're a culture where you're supposed to have certain beliefs. Remember, we talked about gender last week. There are beliefs that your culture may impose upon you that affect your ability to achieve health and well-being. So, if we really look at the whole person and say, how can I help? How can I help William Cray achieve a better quality of life? What caused Deerica and Melody to have this good engagement? And Melody has almost all of the engagement. And we can talk about other factors later, Melody, if you like. We can have one of those deep, profound discussions if you like. But in a sense, all of these factors really go into deciding whether or not you can achieve health and well being. But let me tell you, Dr. Roddenberry wants you to be healthy and happy, just like I am. So, what I'm going to do this week is maybe try to coach you up just a little bit. Okay. Now, today's lecture is going to be a little bit preachy because I'm going to tell you about the things that you should be doing. You should be exercising. You should try to control your weight and have a healthy weight. And you should also try to avoid smoking and drugs and all that other stuff. You're going to say, duh, Chris, I know this, I know this, I know this. But you know what? One more time, I'm going to preach at you, and maybe that can help you. Now, let me tell you a brief story. Dr. Roddenberry did not have health and well-being about 7 years ago. I went to the doctor. I was 45. I'm 52 now. You folks probably don't know this, but I was extremely obese. I was 210 pounds. I'm 5'6". I was 210 pounds. I was extremely heavy. I was drinking a good amount of alcohol, not a ton, but I was a regular drinker. I went to the doctor. The doctor said, "Holy cow, Chris, you're obese. Your blood pressure's high. Your blood sugar's high. Your cholesterol numbers look terrible." And the doctor said, "You know, Chris, you are really in bad shape. You know what you need to do? You need to get on this medication." And I said, "Doc, I can't do that. I don't want to start taking medication at the age of 45." Doctor said, "Well, the only thing you can do is lose a ton of weight and start exercising." So, you know what? I took Plan B. Well, thank you very much, Yasser. It was a long, arduous trek. Anybody who tells you you can lose weight quickly and easily, they are lying to you. It is a stinking struggle. William Cray, I just see your comment. You're passing your fourth kidney stone. Oh my goodness. That sucks. I know kidney stones can be incredibly painful. And when you're hurting, it's hard to feel good about anything. Tell you not to drink so much Coke. I hear you, right? Drinking too much Coca-Cola and sweet drinks are not good for you. Too much Bojangles tea. I smoked 2 packs a day from the time I was 17 until I was 30. All of these habits are tough, and I wish I could go back and tell that idiot 19-year-old kid to quit smoking cigarettes. You're right. Now, what are the benefits of exercise? You know what? Regular exercise, especially aerobic exercise, get yourself to the gym and get that that heart rate up. You know what? It actually lowers your rate of cancer. It definitely lowered my blood pressure from high to my blood pressure is 115/70. My blood pressure is perfect. It came way down. It reduced my cholesterol level, and hopefully I will live a longer life. Regular exercise, especially aerobic exercise, is associated with all of these positive physical impacts. Now I go to the gym every day and I see people who sit on the weight machines and they'll text for 10 minutes and then they'll do a set. And then they'll text for 10 more minutes and then they'll do another set. And they'll take an hour and they'll do maybe 6 sets of exercise. Don't be that person. Put that stupid phone down and get your butt working on those machines. Basically, go to the Stairmaster, go to the walker, go to anything that causes you to do continuous activity. Get that aerobic exercise up. It'll do all these great things for you, all these physical impacts. But remember, well being isn't just about your physical health. What about your cognitive impacts? Did you know they've studied people's cognitive functioning as they get older? Developmental psychology is also interested not only in how we gain abilities, but how abilities decay as we get older. And researchers who've studied aging have found that regular exercise, especially aerobic exercise, improves your cognitive ability as you get older. It may serve a protective function to keep you from suffering dementia. It's not a guarantee. And for those people who develop dementia, this is not an indictment of you because sometimes you can still have dementia, but this serves as a protective factor. Okay, it's going to increase the brain volume, your white and gray matter. Your brain, as we get older, our brain actually shrinks a little bit. So, what this does is this protects against that. Your memory is going to be improved. You're going to have better memory as an older person. And as I said before, it may be a protective factor against some types of dementia. Yes, William, you know what? And I am so sorry. At least they're there, which is better than 99% of the population. You're right. Thank you for calling me out, William. I don't mean to judge those people. And you're right. I am so glad they're there. But but if I could give a little bit of advice, I would say try to spend that hour with that heart rate elevated the whole time if you can. I'm sorry, William. I didn't mean to sound judgmental. He is so right. Uh, I can't. I just want to apologize. You got me, Will. But getting that aerobic exercise will definitely serve to keep that mind there intact. Now, no, you're right. You're right. Uh, but sometimes professors need to be called out, so I like that. Okay. Now, my grandma never went into a gym in her life. What did she do? Man, she was out working in her garden all the time. She was out helping gather wood. Her and her husband had a farm where they raised all kind of animals. Every day she was feeding up. She was pulling. She was working in the garden. My grandma worked super duper hard. So, in a sense, she was getting her exercise. Maybe you don't go to the gym, but if you walk every day outside, that's good. Maybe you chop wood. Maybe you do something physical. But the idea is that getting that heart rate up is good for the mind. Okay. And then emotional impacts. Did you know what? Exercise and releases those endorphins and makes you feel good. Every time I come out of the gym, I feel so good, just emotionally. I'm happy walking out of the gym. Now, going into the gym is the worst time of the day. I hate going into the gym. You know what I mean? Because I know what's in front of me. But after a half an hour of exercise coming out of the gym, I am the happiest person you ever saw. Regular exercise is associated with improved emotional functioning. You're going to have positive impacts on your neurotransmitter functioning and reward motivation and emotional functioning. Your amygdala is going to you're going to have happy juices flowing in your brain. You know what? Exercise may improve treatment outcomes from depression and alcoholism. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't take your medicine that the psychologist prescribes you. I'm not saying you shouldn't go to therapy. But you know what? Throw in some aerobic exercise, and you're going to see that that actually helps you when you're being treated for depression. And you know what? I'm not talking about spending an hour and a half or 2 hours or 3 hours in the gym. I'm talking about 10 minutes of exercise. If you can just get out there and get that heart rate going for even a few minutes a day. You know what? I do go to the gym 5 to 6 days a week. Always get lazy on Sunday, but I don't spend a long time. I am in and out of the gym in 45 minutes. I get in there, I do a quick resistance training, lift weights, for 15 minutes. I pick a body part and I hit it real hard. Now I don't text, I hit it the whole time. As soon as I finish that, I run over to the Stairmaster, or not the Stairmaster, but the treadmill, and I jog at a fairly slow rate for a half an hour. Get my heart rate up about 130, 135 beats a minute. I am in and out in 45 minutes. You do not have to spend forever in the gym. Just get in there and get that heart rate going. Now, some of you are inactive. I know some of you may be a little bit overweight. I am not judging you. I am not telling you you are a bad person. I'm just suggesting it helped me, and I think it will help you too. Remember, I swear to God, I'm not judging myself, but I was huge, and it didn't feel good, and I feel so much better. So you will too if you can get some exercise, okay? Now, exercise is intimately is interrelated with your weight. If you're not exercising, those calories you eat are going to tend to pile on you. If you're exercising and burning 500, 600 calories a day, you're going to find that the things you eat maybe don't grow on your body quite as much. Down here, you're looking below me, and you see that we have the what's called a BMI chart. Now, this BMI chart is a rough guide to your body shape. If you're a weightlifter, or depending upon your sex or ethnicity, sometimes some people have denser bones than others, but this is a good guide to tell you whether or not you are on the right track in terms of maintaining a healthy weight. So look here, I am 5'6", 5'6" on and a half on a good day. You look at that, and I want you to see where my weight was. My weight was 210 pounds, and I was 5'6". My BMI was probably in the 36 to 37 range. You know what? That makes me in the obese range. Now, it took me 6 months of exercise, but I am now down to 155 pounds. You'll see I am now down in the recommended area. Actually, I think it is. I am right at 150. Look at that. It says I'm actually even a tad overweight. Whatever. But I am in a much better place. Go ahead and use this chart and sort of get an idea of where you are physically. And what I want you to do is to think about maybe trying to adjust your weight down if you fall into one of these red or blue categories. Again, no judgment here. I'm not shaming anybody, but there is a certain biology that we can't fight. And one of the things that you can definitely do is help yourself out by trying to maintain a healthy weight. Okay, it's a number representing the ratio of height to weight. It's a good general measure. Excuse me, the stinking pollen's getting me, folks. Whew. It's a great example of the biopsychosocial model. So, what affects your weight? Well, your genetic factors. Some people come from families with heavier BMIs. You can't help your biology. You know what? When people are stressed out, when people are depressed, when people are not feeling good in their mind, a lot of times eating really lights up the reward centers and makes you feel happy. So not only can your biology affect you, but your mental health can affect you too. And your social factors. You know what? I went down to Mexico recently and visited my friends. And down there in their culture, they drink beer and eat bread and beans with every meal. So in their culture tends to eat things that are sort of high in calories. And so my buddy's always complaining about being a little pudgy. But you know what? It's because his down where he lives in Guanajuato, Mexico, uh, eating salads is not really a big part of their culture. So all of these factors sort of can affect you. Holy cow! William Cray went from 230 to 155. Getting a dog really helped me. You know what, William? You know what? Doggone it! How about a round of applause for William? You folks don't realize that, but losing 80 pounds is a huge, huge, huge deal. You know what, William? You should definitely feel proud of yourself. That is an amazing thing to do. Um, I thought that generally BMI was inaccurate. Melody says BMI was inaccurate. Here's the deal: it's not inaccurate, but it doesn't take into effect other factors that affect your BMI. So if you lift weights and you're really pumped up and a really muscular person, uh, with COVID and my cancer, I quit doing weight training. But about a year or two ago, I was actually 165 at 5'6", but I wasn't fat at all. In fact, there was a little less fat around my waist, but I was jacked about 2 years ago, man. I was hitting the gym, I was pushing weight several hours a week, I was eating the protein powder. And so, if you looked at my BMI, Melody, you would say, wow, Dr. Roddenberry, you're actually a little obese. No, I was not obese. I was jacked, baby. Right? And so BMI doesn't take into some of these other factors that may affect our weight. So it's not inaccurate, but it's not a very it's not super duper. The number has to be taken with caution. In fact, really, what they should do, a better measure is your waist to height ratio, because really fat starts to pick up around your belly first. So really, the best way to talk about your healthy weight is by looking at your waist to height ratio. But BMI, most people know how tall they are. Most people can step on a scale. So this is sort of a good general guide. Very good point, Melly. Very good point. And this is true. You can be skinny and unhealthy. You can be a skinny smoker. You can be a skinny drug user. You can be a skinny person who is just genetically skinny, but all they do is sit. And in fact, you can be a little bit husky or overweight, but if you work out and exercise every day, you can also be healthy. So if you're one of those lumberjacks and maybe you're 10 or 15 pounds overweight, but you're running an axe or digging a hole all day long and you're really getting that heart rate up, that you can actually be a healthy person. Very good point, William. You can also be skinny and unhealthy too. But skinny, maintaining a healthy weight is a good start. Boy, William Cray is getting me today. You are providing some great comments. Thanks for being engaged and keeping me on my toes, William, right? Okay. Did you know that friends tend to be similar in BMI, even if they don't live near one another? Adoption studies do show that there is a genetic component to BMI, right? So if you come from a heavy family, you may have to focus on your weight just a little bit more, right? Do obesity and social acceptance, stigmatization in Western culture. Let me be honest with you, folks. When I was 5'6", 210, people ignored me. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not judging them, but people were not nearly as accommodating to me. People were not as nearly as interested in talking to me as they are now. For some reason, and it's weird. It's weird. Maybe I'm paranoid, but I actually feel like people treat me nicer now that I'm thin and muscular as opposed to when I was heavy. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair at all. Unfortunately, it is a fact because in our Western culture, we do stigmatize people who are overweight. We say they're less socially competent, of course, less attractive, less intelligent, and we think they're less productive. These things are not true, but these are stigmas that are also often associated with weight. So the crazy thing is sometimes by addressing this weight, you can actually improve the way you interact with people around you. Not fair, but that's the way it is. Obesity and psychological health. You know, I have a friend who is extremely obese, and I talk to him all the time, and I can tell he has some social anxiety problems because he feels a sense of rejection. And sometimes I feel like my buddy uh, is, he has low self esteem, and sometimes he can be socially anxious. And I think and he's a smart guy. He makes good money. He is a great conversationalist. You would love my buddy. But he doesn't feel good about himself because of his weight. You know what I mean? And it's all up in here. It's in his head, but I can't tell him that, or I talk to him, but I don't want to judge him. But it's all self beliefs that affect the way he interacts with the world, right? So here's the deal. Uh, I don't want you to feel bad if you are a little overweight. I was a lot of overweight, but if we can learn to maybe eat healthier and to focus on trying to maintain a healthy weight, you're going to see a lot of positive effects with it. Okay. No judgment here. No judgment, William. Keep me straight, but it will help you. Okay. Now, here's the deal. Hmm, excuse me. Ah, okay. Here's the deal. Sometimes people focus too much on their weight, and you can go the other way, right? I don't know if you've ever heard of this clinical psychological disorder. It's called body dysmorphic order. It's a disorder characterized by a compulsive preoccupation with a flaw in a personal appearance. Some people will think something's wrong with their nose. My eyes are too far apart. My cheeks aren't right. Um, and there are many types of body dysmorphic disorder. Now, BDD is not an eating disorder, which is what we're going to talk about today. But body dysmorphic order is a general dissatisfaction and preoccupation with some part of your body, right? And the weird thing is, remember if we talked in chapter 3, reality is created in your mind, and reality may or may not match the actual facts on the ground. So sometimes people will look at their face and they will really dislike some aspect of their body. Did you know there are some people who actually feel like a body part doesn't belong to them? And sometimes these people cut these body parts off. I swear to God, I've got an article about it. But there are some people who feel like something's wrong with their body. And so feeling good about your body and having the correct cognitions about your physical qualities is a very important part of our psychological health. Okay. And so I want to talk about people who sometimes have problems with food intake, but they have it in the other way. So we'll talk a little bit about anorexia nervosa, bulimia, and binge eating disorder. Now, you know what anorexia nervosa is. You probably have all heard of this. These are the people who don't eat and starve themselves, even though they're super duper skinny. These people may actually starve themselves to death or until they have very, very physical, bad physical reactions. And even if you tell these people and they are objectively super skinny, they see themselves as fat. And so they just restrict their calorie intake because they're afraid of gaining weight. Then there are those people who are the bulimics, and these people have sort of the same anxiety about gaining weight. But these people eat food, but then they throw that food back up so that those calories don't get into their body. So they're restricting calories, but they're doing it in a different way. Instead of not eating at all, they'll eat, but then make themselves vomit so the calories don't get into their body. And then there are people, and these people who are sometimes I guess you would say emotional eaters, those people who just engage in unhealthy eating behaviors and sometimes just eat a crazy amount of food. Have any of you ever eaten an entire bag of potato chips before? Have any of you ever opened a box of a dozen donuts and maybe eaten 6 or 7 or 8 of them? We've all done that occasionally, once or twice, but there are people who have trouble and do that regularly. We'll call that binge eating disorder. Okay, and so that's what I want to talk about here for a little bit. Logan Phillips has got a comment I'm going to read. I saw a documentary or something about a woman who was sexually assaulted by her gymnastics coach, and when she was younger, she got really bad PTSD from it, and her coping mechanism was exercise. So she never really recovered mentally, and so she was constantly exercising and basically never seeing, and she was destroying her body. Yeah, absolutely. And here's sort of a weird psychodynamic concept of it too. Maybe because she was assaulted by her coach, she developed a really weird orientation towards sexuality. And in puberty, women start to gain weight. They gain the weight around the breast, the hips get a little bit bigger, and they develop the feminine features. She may have had this desire in her brain to keep these feminine qualities off of her body to protect her from sexual attack. So it is very, very, very possible that this traumatic event caused her to feel the pressure of her sexuality. Yes, thank you, Logan. That is a great, great point to bring up. Now, anorexia nervosa. The criteria is a body weight that's too low given your height, and also a person who is excessively focused on food intake. Now, anorexia typically begins in adolescence. Did you know it's more common in females, but it does occur in males? And it may lead to a loss of bone density and heart problems. And you know what? A lot of times, what you're going to find is that anorexics come from high functioning uh, families with some economic means, and there's this excessive focus on body image, body image, body image, and this compulsive belief sort of takes over the person's life. Now, it's usually treated with cognitive behavioral therapy. We're going to talk a little bit about that in webinar, what cognitive behavioral therapy is. And also, we're going to talk about cognitive behavioral therapy when we get to psychological treatments. But really, cognitive behavioral therapy is just retraining thought habits in a person's head. We're going to retrain because thinking is a habit, and these people have developed what we would call maladaptive thought patterns. So, what the CBT, what the psychologist does, is has instead of thinking I'm fat every time you look in the mirror, I have to train you to have a new thought in your head, a new habit of thought. However, anorexia is very resistant to treatment because, as Logan says, there's a lot of times there's psychological trauma at the root of this eating problem, right? Now, here's the deal. Anorexia bulimia is the same exaggerated fear of weight gain, but it leads a person to engage in sort of this weird binge and purge behavior. They'll get so hungry that they'll eat a ton of food. It'll then trigger feelings of guilt and shame. They'll go in the bathroom, they'll throw this food up, which makes them feel better. Then they exercise, and then they repeat that cycle all over again. Now, the crazy thing is, a lot of times you'll see the bulimics, they tend to be of average weight. You don't have to be super skinny to have an eating disorder. You just have to have a problem managing the way you intake food. So, bulimics, a lot of times will look normal physically, whereas the anorexics will really, really, really look super skinny. I'm sorry, this the freaking pollen is just eating me up today. I have bad allergies. I apologize for rubbing my eyes and my nose. Did you know most bulimics are more often female than male? And you know, a lot of times, and this will make more sense when we get to clinical psychology. 1 to 2% of high school or college age women will experience sort of this unhealthy pattern of binging and purging, right? Now, some people necessarily aren't restricting calories, but they still have very, very unhealthy patterns with related to food. Binge eating disorder. So sometimes people will feel anxiety, depression, or whatever they feel, and it'll cause them to crank through a lot of food in one sitting. Maybe they'll eat a whole pizza, 3 bags of potato chips, right? And they might do this maybe once, twice a week. Of course, eating this way is going to cause you to feel obese. And doing this, the people after they finish doing this, they usually feel a huge sense of guilt and embarrassment for having done this. And you know what? This is actually more common in men and ethnic minorities. Clinical psychology has really looked at incidence rates and demographics to see there are definitely patterns in how psychological disorders occur. All right, and so we're going to talk about that, make more sense when we get to clinical psychology. So I want you to know that health psychologists are really interested in how people manage their relationship with food and their body image. And these three things that I have over here and right down below me represent sort of the unhealthy eating habits that people develop that clinical psychologists may have to help us with. And then finally, smoking, smoking, smoking. We all know smoking will kill you. I'm not sure that vaping is a great way to do it either, although the data are not completely in yet. If you're vaping, I would suggest if you could, please quit it and save that money that you're spending on vaping. If you're smoking cigarettes, I'm going to tell you unequivocally, quit it, quit it, quit it, quit it, quit it. Okay? Now, did you know that 1 in 5 Americans reported smoking in 2014? The most smokers in the world, you're going to find them all firing up in China. 30% of all smokers are in China. Did you know that smoking is blamed for 480,000 deaths a year in the United States? 5 million, over 5 million people a year die because of some smoking related illness. If you smoke, it decreases your average lifespan by about 12 years. My mom died of emphysema at the age of 67. My grandfather also smoked and died at the age of 57 from emphysema. Smoking will freaking cut your lifespan. And you know what? Smoking increases your rate of heart disease, respiratory ailments, and some types of cancer. You know, I had cancer 2 years ago. I got tongue cancer at the back of my throat. When I went in there through the process, they talk about your behavioral history. Now, I smoked from 16 to 30. I quit at 30. I had cancer when I was 51. You know what? All that doctor wanted to talk about was the fact that I had smoked for 20 years. Apparently, this was a huge, huge risk factor. And the doctors, every doctor I talked to, the radiation oncologist, the surgical oncologist, the blood oncologist, and all they kept hammering on was, you really smoked, you smoked, you smoked, you smoked. I was like, dude, I quit 20 years ago. Did not matter. Smoking is hugely important for cancer. And it's something, if you're doing it, please, for the love of God, quit yesterday. My grandma quit smoking as soon as she found out she was pregnant with my dad. You got to be powerful. Quitting smoking was the hardest thing I ever did. You know, the reason I quit is because my sons noticed I was smoking cigarettes. They finally started, hey, what are you doing, Dad? You smoking cigarette? My little 3-year-old. And I was so humiliated at 32 that I put those cigarettes down. I threw my cigarettes in the garbage that evening and I never smoked again. All right. Now, I began smoking in early adolescence. It was a funny thing to do. It was a cool thing to do at 14 and 15. Let's smoke that one cigarette. You know, grab mom's cigarettes and go out and smoke one or two with my teenage buddies. Ha ha ha. How cool was that? So I, like most smokers, I began in early adolescence. Achoo, 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 achoo. Holy cow, it's getting me. Half of these smokers, just like me, will persist into adulthood. And did you know 1/3 of all people who begin smoking will die because of their smoking? Now, adolescent smoking has decreased by half since 1990. Yay, America, we've decreased. There have been so many campaigns trying to stop kids from smoking that smoking cigarettes has decreased. However, people now are e-smoking, are vaping. And in fact, that's what all of you kids are doing. None of you are lighting up a cigarette, but you're vaping. And I'm not sure that's a good thing, right? Now, here's the deal. My parents both smoked. And I hate to say this, the statute of limitations is done, so you can't send my parents to jail. But my parents actually thought it was funny when I was 7 years old to let me take a puff off of their cigarette. It was the wild and crazy 70s. My dad actually used to let me sip his Rolling Rock beers at the age of 6 or 7. But my parents actually let me puff a cigarette when I was 6 and laughed at it and thought it was funny. Back in America in the 70s, nobody really cared how old you are when you bought cigarettes. My mom would actually go to the convenience store and send me inside to pick her up cigarettes. I would go inside and I would tell the man behind the person behind the counter, I'm getting cigarettes from mom. Can I get a blah, blah, blah? And the gentleman would sell me a pack of cigarettes in 1976, and I would carry them out to my mom. We had candy cigarettes. I don't know if you've ever seen these. They're candies, but they look like cigarettes. Little kids can pretend to smoke them and then eat them. All of these things reinforce smoking behavior. So if you're smoking, you know what? Your kids are going to pick that habit up. If you take them to movies and the heroes are all smoking cigarettes and doing cool things, these factors are all going to affect whether or not your children choose to smoke, right? Now, uh, quitting smoking, nicotine replacement, Chantix, sure, you can take these, and what they do is they supposedly decrease the physical addiction symptoms and help you wean yourself off of cigarettes. And this Chantix binds with the body's nicotinic receptors and decreases your cravings for nicotine. You know what? These are not really effective. At some point, you've got to go through the physical withdrawal symptoms. The physical withdrawal from cigarettes takes about 7 to 10 days, but then you have to get rid of the mental habit, the mental addiction too. And so it's a two-step process. You know what? If you really want to quit cigarettes, you got to just decide you're going to quit them and throw them away. Now, here's the deal. For me, smoking was impossible to quit till I decided I wanted to quit smoking. What do you mean, Chris? Well, I really didn't want to quit smoking when I was 25. I didn't want to quit when I was 26 because I would do things like, I'll quit smoking after this pack of cigarettes, right? If you really want to quit cigarettes, it doesn't matter how many you have in your pocket, you will throw them in the garbage. And so I never really wanted to quit. And I would say, you know what, I'm just going to smoke one cigarette now. Can't do it that way. If you're going to quit cigarettes, you throw that crap in the garbage and you tell people that moment, the moment you quit, I am a non smoker. Sucks for a week, kind of sucks for a month or two. And occasionally I've been quit for 20 years, and I still think about a cigarette occasionally. But you know what? You just have to decide. Once in my mind, I really decided I quit. It was mildly difficult. But what I find is most people really don't want to quit. You know what? I'm going to quit next week. Yeah, I'm going to quit. You know what? I'm going to smoke this week because I have a stressful thing. But I've quit smoking cigarettes. Nope. Once you quit, you quit. Okay. But you know what? If you can, I would love for you to quit smoking cigarettes. William Cray started smoking because you could take 10-minute break at work every hour. You couldn't take a fresh air break, but a smoking break. Isn't that crazy? Your boss will reward you to go kill yourself, but not to be a healthy person. Wow, that's amazing. And I can see why you might do that. Your grandma quit smoking. Very interesting. All right, folks. Well, you know what? We are at the end of the lecture. And today, what I wanted to focus on was habits that you could engage in to help you achieve this sense of well being. Remember, well being is when your body's healthy, you're feeling good in your mind, and you're also engaged with life. And health psychologists are the applied field that help people achieve a sense of well being. How can you achieve a sense of well being? By exercising, by maintaining a healthy weight. And you know what? Try to avoid those cigarettes if you possibly can. I hope today wasn't too preachy. I'm not preaching at you if you're not engaging in any of these things. I'm just saying if you're like me and always trying to be better and live better, these are areas where you might want to focus on self improvement. On Thursday, I'm going to talk about stress, what it is, how you can protect yourself from the feeling of stress, because you know what? Stress is a killer. So if you come back on Thursday, we'll talk about stress and how you, my friend, can achieve a more stress free life. Remember, tonight in Thursday's webinar, we're going to be talking about performance anxiety and how you can do better at that exam, that job interview, or any stressful environment where you get uptight and can't perform like you want to. All right, folks, thank you very much for coming. I had a great day, and I look forward to seeing you next Thursday at lecture. Until then, take care.